The date is Tuesday, December 15. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. The National Water Commission, NWC, says it has cut off water supply to a number of delinquent customers as part of its major disconnection program now underway. Corporate Public Relations Manager at the NWC, Andrew Cannon, says disconnections have been done in several parishes in Manchester as well as St. Elizabeth.
We have some $20 to $30 billion out there that need to be collected, and those monies, if they are not collected, it really could threaten the very viability of the NWC. We know it's Christmas and persons want to enjoy themselves during Christmas. We also know that it's Christmas time where persons have their festivities and they go to their parties and that kind of stuff. What we're saying is, just as when you would set aside some money to go to your parties or to pay for your nails or your new hairstyle or to buy appliances, set aside a part of the money to deal with your NWC bill, because you cannot live without water.
NWC customers with outstanding bills are being urged to visit the nearest NWC office to make payment. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bessessa McKenzie is urging institutions and, by extension, the public to remain vigilant. This as health authorities are working to contain the spread of COVID-19 at the Bellevue Hospital, following the recent discovery of a cluster of cases at the institution. Up to the weekend, 21 of 29 patients tested and 2 of 23 staff members tested and have returned positive results for COVID-19. The public health team has since gone into the institution, where a range of infection prevention and control measures are now in place. The staff is also trained in infection prevention and control, including cleaning and sanitization, while doctors are to be trained to swab persons to support the testing efforts. The wearing of masks is mandatory, while the ward to which the cases are now confined will accept no new admissions. Despite the observation that the direct impact of COVID-19 on young people has been less severe than older members of populations, the long-term effects of the virus on the young could be detrimental. The World Health Organization, WHO, says more than 1 billion students in almost every country have been impacted by school closures over the past year. In this next report, we hear how they have been directly impacted and what the WHO is doing to alleviate some of the issues. The closure of schools is just one issue being faced. Director General of the WHO, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, says 1 in 6 young people have lost their jobs during the pandemic.
Disruptions to education, economic uncertainty, loss or lack of employment opportunities, impacts on physical and mental health, and trauma from domestic violence, to name a few.
Dr. Ghebreyesus says the WHO has been working with young people and associates like UNESCO throughout the pandemic.
We have supported and amplified youth-led initiatives on combating misinformation and mental health. We have engaged young people in co-creating communication materials for young people about reducing the risk of COVID-19 transmission. We supported the youth-led COVID-19 youth survey to assess attitudes and awareness of young people about COVID-19. And we will soon be publishing the results of a global survey about how young people look for and use COVID-19 information online.
The latest move is the launch of a global mobilization to respond to disruptive impacts of COVID-19 on young people.
A new worldwide movement to support young people and involve them in the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This new initiative is being led by what's known as the Big Six youth organizations: the World Organization of the Scout Movement, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, the Young Men's Christian Association, the World Young Women's Christian Association, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and the Duke of Edinburgh International Award.
The WHO and its partners will be disbursing a fund of US $5 million to support local and national youth organizations.
We hope that it will become a platform for supporting progress towards other health goals, including universal health coverage. The voice of the youth for Health for All is very crucial. In early 2021, the movement will issue a call for proposals inviting youth groups around the world to develop youth-led solutions to COVID-19 and an accelerator program to scale up existing response efforts.
The WHO says the global youth mobilization will also highlight the critical leadership role young people are playing in their communities to counter the effects of the pandemic. Jamaica's reggae music and the heritage of the Moortown Maroons were placed under the microscope during a meeting of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Committee for Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage. More than 400 participants from 100 countries took part in the meeting on Monday, December 14. The meeting, which runs until December 19, is chaired by Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Grange. Dylan Scott, a second-year student at the G.C. Foster College of Physical Education and Sport, is the winner of the Dr. Arthur Wint Centenary Scholarship. Arthur Stanley Wint is the first Jamaican to win an Olympic gold medal. He competed at the 1948 and 1952 Olympic Games, winning 2 gold and 2 silver medals.
We recently celebrated his 100th birthday, and I made the decision that to honor him in a lasting way would be to establish the Arthur Wint Centenary Scholarship. So I put a committee together headed by the Honorable Mike Fennell, representatives from Arthur Wint's family, representatives from the G.C. Foster College, and representatives from my ministry, from the sports division. They met, they interviewed, it was advertised, they interviewed 5 applicants, and Dylan Scott came out on top.
Mr. Scott is pursuing a bachelor's degree in physical education and has a GPA of 3.89 and was successful from a short list of 5 candidates.
I want to say to everyone that, listen, I have been through the worst, and in order to be your best, you have to face the worst. So the worst that you're going through right now, don't worry, it's preparing you for your best. So continue to work hard, continue to strive for academic success, continue to make God proud, don't let him out, don't leave him out. He alone will carry you through. So I just want to thank everyone one time.
We're very happy that the Minister and G.C. Foster College saw it fit to honor him in this centenary year by offering this scholarship at G.C. Foster College. We know that many of the students at the college are, and in a number of institutions are, in financial straits in terms of how will they manage the second year, the third year, the fourth year. And so by offering this scholarship to Mr. Scott, it's affording him that possibility to be comfortable in finishing his degree and moving on and doing much, much more. And so we see this as an important step. Again, as I say, we're very grateful to the ministry and the college for offering this opportunity. And we encourage others to support other students at this college and other colleges, because we acclaim our athletes. We very often assume that our athletes are, just the raw talent and so on, but a lot of it is hard work at the college, and they require the support before they can become the people that we are accustomed to seeing and celebrating.
In terms of what this means for the college, we are very excited. This is Arthur Wint, this is a centenary, and to have the whole of that scholarship at G.C. Foster does say a lot for the institution. It also exemplifies what we believe in terms of success, in terms of participation, in terms of what does the particular candidate carry throughout that next 3 years. we are very happy at GC Foster that our student was selected. He does represent what GC Foster commits to, and that would be education first of all, the participation in sports, is giving back to the community. And as I said earlier in my brief talk, I'm looking at him for leadership. So far he has demonstrated that he could provide very good leadership inside the college as a student. We are very, very excited at GC Foster. And let me just point out about the collaboration between the Ministry of Sport and ourselves. This could not have taken place without that collaboration. The Minister spoke about GC Foster being one of the pillars inside our ministry. And yes, it is. The value of this scholarship is $1.8 million, which between the ministry and GC Foster will provide that for the youngster. We have a lot of expectations for him. We also have a lot of expectations of what he will do in the 3 years in terms of his contribution to college and community life.
'Tis the season to be jolly, but Jamaicans are being urged to also be cautious, especially on the road. The Jamaica Constabulary Force's head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Senior Superintendent of Police Gary Mackenzie, says the Christmas season is usually marked with increased activity on public roads and increased accidents. He gave a word of caution while speaking at a recent JIS think tank.
Senior Superintendent of Police SSP Gary Mackenzie says shoppers and entrepreneurs should be wary of the dangers of rushing while conducting business.
At this time, persons who drive for profit, meaning public passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, these drivers and owners, they try to maximize on the benefits. So persons seek to make more trips than they normally do. And as such, there is the tendency to be quite hasty on the roadways. We have to be patient. We have to slow down on the roadways to reduce the number of accidents that tend to happen.
SSP Mackenzie says motorists need to bear in mind that road works are underway along several corridors across the island.
We have had heavy rainfalls that have affected some of our roads. Some amount of repair work have been done, but there is still quite a bit that needs to be done. Already we are seeing work that is taking place, and so it is very important for citizens to recognize this. We have had more than about 400 fatal accidents on our roads so far this year, which is quite a lot, and it is something that we have to take stock of because we have to reduce the number of road fatalities.
He says his team is working to limit congestions and patrol hotspots for bike robbers.
We have some special teams that are out there just now that are targeting persons. We have observed that a number of these robberies are being carried out by motorcyclists. And motorcyclists are not alone. They usually have pillion riders, some of them armed. We have intercepted a number of them over the past few weeks, and we continue to work assiduously to rid the streets of those persons.
People are also being cautioned not to expose valuables while in public.
When you park, do not leave them on seats. We encourage persons to reduce the amount of jewelry that they wear. Use less cash. Do not expose your monies. Travel in groups when you go out to shop. Those things make sense because it reduces the ability or the chances of criminals to target and rob persons.
Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
One question that invariably comes up at this time of the year is how much money is in circulation? Well, the Bank of Jamaica is projecting $190.9 billion at the end of December. This would be $22 billion or 13% more in total currency to be in circulation for December 2020 comparative to November. In a statement, the central bank said the sum would be consistent with heightened expenditure associated with the Christmas season. The projection would be higher than the $0.5 billion recorded for the corresponding period last year. The central bank said the December projection represents a nominal 28.2% increase compared to 11.5% for the corresponding period in 2019. Time now for a look at some of the key local and overseas market activities. Gabriel Thompson has the business report.
In Monday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 2,145 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 86 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 40 declined, and 12 traded firm. The Junior Market Index advanced by 40 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica, Access Financial Services, and CAC 2000 Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company, Barita Investments, and Berger Paints Jamaica. Trading firm were Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Epley Limited. Jamaican Teas Limited was the volume leader with 5.8 million units, followed by Mailpack Group Limited with over 3 million units and Fosrich Company Limited with 2.8 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Monday, December 14 ended trading at $144.24. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $112.48. The pound sterling traded for $191.04, and the euro ended trading at $177.12. Oil rose above $50 a barrel on Tuesday as optimism from the rollout of coronavirus vaccines balanced out tighter lockdowns in Europe and forecasts of a slower demand recovery. Brent crude futures gained 14 cents to $50.43 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 14 cents to $47.13 a barrel. And that does it for this edition of the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, medical officials in St. Lucia have welcomed the new contact tracing app to help ease the burden on the healthcare system. We have more in this report.
As time passes and memories fade, COVID-19 positive individuals may have trouble remembering the persons they came into close contact with. The Health Ministry is currently in possession of the 758 Care Alert app to track an individual's whereabouts over a 14-day period. Health officials explained how the app works at a press conference on Thursday at the command center.
There are some limitations to contact tracing, and sometimes persons don't remember exactly where they've been, who they've been in contact with, who has visited them, some of the activities that they've been engaged in. And by using the app, we are the ones, the contact tracing team, would be privy to the information that the confirmed case is giving us. Pretty much like what is happening now, but it's just going to help to joggle their memory and to help them.
Graduate student and researcher at Harvard University, Khalil Louisi, has been involved in the development of the app at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Louisi says the application helps map the spread of the virus.
So all of the public places that you would have gone to over a 14-day period, so 2-week period, it maintains all of those points and it saves it in your phone. No one has access to this information. Even if somebody goes into your phone, they cannot see all of the places that you visited. So it is completely private. In the event that one individual does test positive for COVID-19 or for any infectious disease, really, they would choose to share that location log with the contact tracer, and the contact tracer would then be able to have a visual representation of all of the public places that that individual had gone to over the 14-day period.
Principal Nursing Officer Juliet Cassius welcomes the app, which she says will help lift a huge weight off the healthcare system.
If one is placed on home quarantine, one is expected to remain within the confines of this room or the dwelling in which they're at. So we would not expect these persons to be moving around. So in that case, the app should not show you have been anywhere because you are supposed to be confined. So in that way, it puts a little less pressure on the ministry in that we know that this person is within home quarantine and they would not have been moving around where we would need to be doing that kind of contact tracing.
The violation of home quarantine rules has been one of the major challenges for the Health Ministry. During the NEMAC press conference on Wednesday, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar-George disclosed that some individuals were even hosting, quote, quarantine parties, unquote. Additionally, the authorities are bracing themselves for an increase in home quarantine applications from returning nationals this holiday season. The government expects the receipt of electronic devices this week, following a successful pilot process of the first batch. Officials are in the process of reviewing the bio buttons and tracking of persons in self-isolation, which are set to commence next week. Colby DeVoe, HDS News Force.
Director of the National Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention Program in Trinidad and Tobago believes increased alcohol consumption during the Christmas period could impair people's judgment to follow properly the public health protocols that are currently in place to protect against COVID-19. Lyra Thompson-Hollingsworth was speaking during the Health Ministry's media conference on Monday when she urged the public to drink responsibly. Sunil Lala reports.
With alcohol consumption prohibited at bars due to COVID-19 restrictions, Director of NARAP Lyra Thompson-Hollingsworth said the level of alcohol consumption will be determined by the household, but she fears that this could have a negative effect on people's ability to practice the COVID-19 guidelines with which we've all been familiar. She urged all to drink responsibly for the festive season and limit alcohol consumption as much as possible, as alcohol can reduce the capacity for sound decision-making.
Alcohol also alters your thoughts, judgment, decision-making, and behavior. Individuals are urged to avoid intoxication so that they can easily observe protocols such as mask wearing, social distancing, and hand washing or sanitizing.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Thompson-Hollingsworth reminded that heavy alcohol consumption places individuals at risk for diabetes and hypertension, both of which are underlying health conditions for COVID-19.
Alcohol use, especially heavy use, weakens the immune system and reduces its ability to cope with infectious diseases, including COVID-19. Heavy alcohol use is a risk factor for acute respiratory distress syndrome, one of the most severe complications of COVID-19.
And for people who may be in isolation, she urged them not to use this as a means to drown their sorrows.
Alcohol consumption may intensify fear, anxiety, or depression, especially when people are in isolation, and should not be used as a coping strategy to deal with stress.
The director of NARAP also issued some drinking tips for the season, including avoiding alcoholic beverages when thirsty, stay hydrated, and avoid mixing alcohol consumption with the use of other categories of intoxicating drugs. Sonolala, TTT News.
The Parliamentary Elections Amendment Bill 2020 was unanimously passed in the Bahamian Senate on Monday, paving the way for a more permanent voter register. But how will it impact Grand Bahama and Abaco residents who were displaced following Hurricane Dorian last year? Jasmine Brown has the details.
Opposition Senator Michael Darville was candid in his comments as he said the advantage of a permanent register far outweighs the disadvantage. However, he said a number of technicalities must be addressed.
This is a really strange situation, and it has to do with the disaster. These individuals spend most of the day at home, at their destroyed dwelling, trying to pick up the pieces, packing, trying to get their residence up and going. But they actually sleep in residences with family and friends at night.
Hurricane Dorian tore through Grand Bahama and Abaco in September last year, displacing thousands of residents and leaving many with the prospect of rebuilding. Darville noted that more than a year later, following the monster storm, many people are still picking up the pieces.
Given the fact that the voters' registration is currently based on building where you reside, would the continuous register take into account this important fact Or will these persons be excluded from the register because you cannot determine where they really live?
The official death toll of Hurricane Dorian more than a year later is 76. Meantime, the missing persons list has been a particularly contentious issue in the aftermath of the storm, with several government authorities giving conflicting figures on more than one occasion. At last report, National Security Minister Marvin Dames said 279 people were missing. However, Darville said that the number of missing people remains unclear.
The amendments speak specifically to deaths, but not missing persons. Now, we keep hearing a lot of information about this missing person list and the amount of deaths in Abaco, and some reports indicate that it may be thousands, it may be above 700, we don't know. And we would like to find out, we need to know who these people are because we don't want them to be popping up at the day of the election.
Meantime, the bill notes that a person registered as a voter on the current register shall remain registered as a voter entitled to vote at an election on the continuous register unless his name is removed from the register by the Parliamentary Commissioner because the person has either died, is found ineligible to vote, or has an objection to his registration as a voter. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In sports, we tee off with golf. The 53rd staging of the Jamaica Golf Association Open will wrap up today. Entering into the final day, American Eric Barnes holds a stroke lead over favorite Canadian David Moreland. The competition has gained momentum, having been marred by a slow start. Despite a relatively small field, the opening day was hampered by slow play, as some of the groups took almost 5 hours to complete their rounds. Organizers were doubtful earlier in the year about staging the event due to sponsors pulling out owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, Scott Summy, who owns the Aqua Bay Villa on the trial property in Hanover, stepped up to sponsor the event, however, saving the event for at least this year. This was a point underscored at the recent launch of the tournament. And that's the news. Thanks so much for watching PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station. Stay safe.